Hello, friends. Welcome to Listening to the Verde, a series brought to you by Friends of the Verde River. Friends of the Verde River works with people like you for a healthy, flowing Verde River system. This program will inspire, engage, and inform you about everything that makes the Verde healthy, your land, your waters, and our people. I'm Nancy Steele, Executive Director of Friends of the Verde River, and I'm here today with Thomasene Cardona, who is a member of the Board of Directors of Friends. Thomasene is of Acoma, Yavapai, and Apache descent, and she was raised in the Clarkdale community. She now resides on the Yavapai-Apache reservation. Thomasene currently holds an elected seat on the Camp Verde Unified School District Board, and her work experience includes serving as the Tribal Employment Rights Officer in Tribal Administration, Energy Efficiency, and Gaming. She's a past elected member of the Tribal Council of the Yavapai-Apache Nation. She has experience in legal and individual advocacy and the civil courts. Thomasene has a Master of Arts in Social Justice and Human Rights with an emphasis in community organizing from Prescott College. She earned her Bachelor of Arts from Northern Arizona University in Interdisciplinary Studies, applied human behavior with an emphasis in entrepreneurship. And Thomasene, welcome to Listening to the Verde. It's a delight to be able to talk with you today. I've just given our audience a real brief summary of your life. So what we want to do in this next several minutes in this show is learn more about you and what motivates you. I definitely want to know more about how you're so dedicated to public service and, of course, to the Verde River. Can you talk a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So, public service certainly is something that I find to be of great value. It's something that started probably early 2015 through the courses that I took at Prescott College, really taking a close look at systems and, voice and what creates representation, sparked an interest. It's something that helped me identify where my passion was, and later pushed me to run a slate campaign for the Yavapai-Apache Nation in 2016. And it was the first time a slate campaign had ever been done before, and it was a successful campaign. I had the chair, the vice, and one tribal council seat filled from that slate campaign. My other interests, of course, in community service is creating opportunity for individuals to share their story, make connections with other individuals in the greater Verde Valley. I think that's certainly something that is important. Having relationship opportunities, building relationship opportunities is certainly important. And that in itself, in what I've seen, creates representation. I also serve in, other governmental areas, and it's all for the benefit of the community and the people here in the Verde Valley.
Yeah.
So the Verde River, yes, is certainly something that is known to many of us here throughout the Verde Valley and Arizona and many other parts of the nation here. But it is certainly the heart of the Verde Valley. And for me as a child, it's where I spent a good amount of my time. Many of the childhood memories are of my grandmother and many of the other elders experiencing time along the river. And so, summers there, fall, winter, just good times and good memories of what the river provided and the rest of the landscape here in the Verde Valley.
Wow. Yeah, I want to come back to the Verde River. I want to talk about that a lot more. But before we do, tell me a little bit about getting elected. I mean, I before we started the interview, we were talking a little bit about that, and I'm always in awe of people who stand for election. And especially, you said you did something different. You did a slate election, and that had never happened before. So, that's, to me, I want to hear a little bit more about that. What was your idea about the slate election, and how did that come about?
Well, it came at a time when there were many candidates. Normally, for the Yavapai-Apache Nation, we see a greater turnout during the executive election, and that is by constitution, we hold an election every 3 years, or every year, excuse me. Each term is a 3-year term, and so next year in 2022, we will have an election for the executive office, which is the chair, the vice chairperson seat, along with one council member seat. And it was at this time in 2016 that happened to be, for that election where we would be filling the executive seats. And I knew a few individuals that were looking to run, and we decided to get together and talk about what that would look like. And it just seemed that everything fell in place, and it was a right time to do something different. We looked at the number of eligible tribal voters in the Verde Valley, which was estimated at that time to be around 750. And we knew that a lot of the communities played a key role in determining who would be elected. And we wanted to create a change. We created a change in the communication, the outreach to the tribal citizens, and really looking to help individuals within the communities understand what a campaign could look like and what participation meant. And so it was through this plan to have a slate campaign that we create a uniqueness far different from what others were doing and planning. And it was a win. It was a win-win for our community. It was a win for us in achieving our goal. And I think from that, we also set a bar in a sense that we created a change of something different that was laid out in the Constitution. The Constitution, sets a criteria for individuals. You have to be 18 years of age, and you have a high school diploma, and there are, the age of 25, and with a high school diploma. And so we wanted to make sure that representation included individuals with a certain background. There were individuals that had a high school, more than a high school education, that had different professional backgrounds. And so again, another different approach in the campaign and what we were sharing with the community. And this was something that was shared and supported by the community itself. It created a buzz, if you will, in the community, which was very exciting.
Yeah. Did you have greater more people voting?
Well, I think the outcome was pretty much the same. However, the participation and the community really taking the initiative to share about who was on the ballot was something that we did not see before. And so again, it created a change within the community. Okay.
That sounds great. And you're obviously a consequential person in the nation. I appreciate that. I know that right now you're a school board member, and you were elected last year, I think?
Yes.
And so I want to learn a little bit more about, you made that change, that shift in another area, education. And so how do you see your role in the school board now causing change?
So I am the first Yavapai-Apache tribal citizen to serve on the board, and that in itself is quite unique. We have a good number of our tribal students who attend Camp Verde, and so this is something that I believe is, it's been slow going, because for me, I've had to adjust. I've had to make an adjustment in, there's the government side of coming from the tribal council and then going into the school board. Well, there's certain regulatory guidelines, and we have state statute that really governs the school boards, and so that's been a learning curve for me. But I think overall, there's been an excitement that has been shared with me of just reaching out to the community and getting to know more of the community, those in the Camp Verde area, the parents and others. Have shared that this is the first time we've seen, someone new that has been interested in serving on the board. It doesn't happen often. So I think that right there is a beginning, and hopefully with the next election, we'll see others that have an interest. But I think it's also created some new conversations, if you will, on the board. We're talking more about communication and how we are building relationships with the stakeholders, that, the students, the parents, and the staff. I think that's important. And it's always been a view that I've shared with many, not only just on the school board, but on tribal council as well, is the relationship with the community is key to guiding the decisions that we make. Mm-hmm. And it's worth the time and the effort. And it sometimes, takes us beyond the once a month meeting. But it certainly is worth everything that could be given in developing those relationships.
Yeah, I can imagine. I mean, that's a lot of work, and I know school boards across the nation have been in crisis because of COVID. I don't know how much, I'm curious how much COVID has impacted your work on the school board since you took office.
So I came in right after a major decision was made. The school board had decided in fall to have in-school learning, but they also made an opportunity for individuals who wanted to have an alternative opportunity for their student was created, which I think was important. And I also believe that having the input from the stakeholders was something that was provided. And so when I came aboard, everything was already in place. And we did have some cases and some things that needed to be addressed. But I believe that the relationship and the uniqueness of Camp Verde helped us move through those and helped us to address them. We went through the school year with in-school learning. Many of the, transportation, it was encouraged that the parents and family members bring the students to the school to minimize any type of, those issues with the transportation, which I think was a great response. It did create some other challenges with the crowding of vehicles, but again, that was addressed. And then when we looked at, after the holidays, Christmas, we had a 2-week online learning, and that was to kind of address the unknown of what we would be facing when the students returned back to school. And that was a cushion that was created, and it went well. Here in this new year, we've been off to a great start. We're off to a great start in this semester. Things have been going well. And the students are, of course, back in the classroom. And I think that's really something that I've heard when I was actually out in the community campaigning was, what are my thoughts about in-person learning, and do I support it? And for me, looking at the development, early development for children, that social time and that interaction is key. And I think that's part of the resiliency that is created when we are able to, as a community and as a school district, say, these are the things that we value, and we're going to face this together and be able to create opportunities for safe learning and for our children, our students to thrive, because it's been a tough year for many people, many different communities.
Yeah, and we want what's best for our children, don't we?
We do, and we have to create that balance. And so, last year it was both online and in person, and so that was the balance that was created.
Yeah. Well, I've got a lot more questions for you, but it's time for our break.
Sure.
We'll be back soon, right after a short break. Welcome back to Listening to the Verde. We're here with Thomasene Cardona, and we've been talking about her experiences as an elected official with the Yavapai-Apache Nation, as a council member, and currently as a school board member with the Camp Verde Unified School District. And we're going to switch the conversation now to talk about water and the river. And I want to start off with a quote by Yavapai elder Mary Sign, who said, "As long as the river flows, life will be good." And she was, of course, referring to the Verde River, which is the lifeblood of the Verde Valley, and I would say all of this part of Arizona. And it's a critical water resource for the Prescott and Phoenix areas, and of course throughout the Verde Valley. And part of this issue is about water rights, and knowing that you're not speaking for the Yavapai-Apache Nation in this issue, I did want to talk a little bit about what the water rights mean. I know the struggle has been going on for over 40 years, that the Yavapai-Apache Nation has been working to settle its historic water rights. And so maybe you could talk a little bit about why settling those water rights is so important, and what it would mean to your people and your community.
Well, I think first understanding what the system requires is important. So there's either litigation or there's a settlement. And I think in a settlement, it's an opportunity for the Verde Valley to come together and determine the future of the Verde River. And I think that in itself is something that is important for all of us, not just the Yavapai-Apache Nation. And I believe that when, the nation, the Yavapai-Apache Nation, looks at that relationship, we are actually building a future that moves us beyond settlement, because this process that we're in right now is specific to what has been laid out by the government. And so, as a community, as a Yavapai-Apache tribal citizen, I want to make sure that we're looking past that and beyond that. And that requires certain conversations to be had. And that means we're looking at where we are in terms of challenges, in terms of relationships, technology, climate change. I mean, there's so much that can be discussed, and that requires all of us to come together. There is often a push for tribes to be heard, and that is important. That is certainly something that isn't done very often, but I think the tribe right now in this process has a unique opportunity to create those conversations in a way that would move this process along, but would also create a strong future for all of us here in the Verde Valley.
Yeah, that's really important. That's really profound. If we don't have the river, what happens to our communities? So what does the river mean to you? I know you grew up near the river, and as I said in your intro, you're also a board member of Friends of the Verde River. Talk a little bit about your relationship with the river, growing up and today.
So I have to say that, growing up in Clarkdale, which is been known as the Yavapai community, has been a really a good memory, in the sense that back when I was a child, a group of the elders, the women, whether it was intentional or it's just a practice, that really, they always were together. They got together on a daily basis, had conversation, talked about different issues in the community. But for those of us that were around, the little ones, we were able to participate in the activities that they had. And that often included going to the river and picking wild spinach, gathering wild onions, going to Mingus Mountain and getting the berries, making cradle boards. It was just something that, that created a relationship in a way that was significant to my identity as a young Yavapai-Apache child. And so it certainly is something that has been, I guess, a foundational part in who I am today as a Yavapai-Apache woman, because the conversations that came from those experiences were very specific to the area, very specific to how the water is used and what it provides for us. And, even if there was a plant that, like mesquite is something that we used all the time. I grew up, eating mesquite and
how? Mesquite beans, mesquite flour?
Mesquite beans, mesquite flour. It certainly is something that has been a key part of our lives. And so you don't see it right along the Verde River, but it's still that relationship and the connection that is there.
It's in the floodplain.
To be able to know what the river provides and what it's life. We hear that the term often, that water is life, and that is true for all of us here in the Verde Valley, and beyond, throughout the world. And I think that those experiences has certainly helped me understand and appreciate even more the importance of being able to look at where we are and the relationships that we have with our surroundings, because I think it is through that relationship that we are able to better be advocates, to be stronger advocates in addressing the issues that we face, whether it's as a tribal citizen when it comes to our water rights, or looking at our water system and ensuring that we have adequate, healthy, clean water for our communities, and we have the system, the maintenance, to be able to maintain those the water systems that we have in place. Because we have the process of the water coming in, which is the distribution, and then we have the sewer side, which is, hopefully we're looking more into the future of how that can be processed in a way that helps us to, directly recharge our water systems. And so for me, they're all connected. And it's important for us to look at the relationships that we have.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, all water is one water, and it all comes from the same place, and it all cycles through our communities, enriches our communities and our lives and our bodies, right? It's necessary. Water's necessary, but it also gives us a lot of maybe those intangibles, right? The joy of a child playing by the river, which you experienced as a child, but also food and fiber and making things from the river. That's really great. We've got just a couple of minutes. What would you like to say?
So I think the one thing that you've mentioned is food. We have our farm and ranch. The Yavapai-Apache Nation has a farm and ranch. Most recently, we looked at food sovereignty, and I think that's important, for here in the Verde River, along the Verde River, all the communities along the Verde River. And I say that because, this past year has been very difficult, and COVID has created many challenges for tribal communities. We know that, probably mid-year, the communities were closed. The nation had to decide to make distributions to the community for food and water. But I think when we look at maintaining relationships and understanding the importance of water and food, we are also doing our part in making sure that we're providing everything from the community and the land that we have.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you so much. I want to thank Thomasene Cardona for joining me on this episode of Listening to the Verde. I know we could talk for a lot longer than this. This is just a taste. And thank you all for watching our show, Listening to the Verde. For more episodes and to learn what you can do to save the Verde River, please visit our website, verderiver.org. Thank you very much, all. Have a great day.
Listening to the Verde is brought to you by Friends of the Verde River. Please visit verderiver.org/listening for more videos and resources.